You can do them all together, or
However you want. Motions.
I'll move approval of all of the minutes.
Yeah,
Could you be more specific?
I can if you show it to me.
Speakers.
Vice Chair.
I move approval of the minutes of study session of August 7th, 2019, the regular meeting minutes of March 6th, 2019, and September 4th, 2019.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the study session of August 7th, 2019, and the regular meeting minutes of March 6th and September 4th. Is there any discussion, corrections, amendments?
There is one correction. Ross and Rob are kind of used interchangeably.
I'm
So
sorry.
just try to stick with Rob, or whichever one works better for you.
No, we'll fix it.
Okay,
I
very good. Thank you.
apologize.
Appreciate that.
All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved. Are you ready for us to use any of this technology for approval of motions, or we can just use aye and nay? Okay, great, thank you. All right, thank you for that. We'll move on to our regular agenda this evening. And item number 3 on our regular agenda is a development plan review for a new 6-story commercial development consisting of 144,000 square feet of office and retail use at 700 South Novus in the Novus Innovation Corridor. Ms. Voss, do you have a report for us?
I do. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For your record, my name is Manjula Vaz with the law firm of Gamage and Burnham. I am here this evening on behalf of Catalyst Development Corporation to talk about Novus Parcel 3DN. Turn the next. Tonight, as you know, we're going to do the development plan review. I now have to wait for the site, for the site, and landscape and building elevations for a new 6-story office building, and then which is parcel on 3DN, which is turn to the next slide. Just to briefly show you on this map, you can see it may be a little hard. I think you can see, but it's the parcel that's just adjacent to the garage.
Oh,
with
it's
the-
parcel 3DN.
Yeah,
The
it's called, yes,
cursor is-
3D North is really what that stands for. And so that we've kind of outlined it for
It's
you,
not 3A, it's 3DN,
3DN. And as we've been going,
right there.
got it? Oh, yeah, I don't have a pointer, but I was told how to use a pointer in the future. So in the future, I will be able to use a
I'm
pointer.
not sure if people at home are seeing this, so.
But anyway, this is the office building that's near the garage. And the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Ledwith from Smith Group, who's going to lead you. He's our lead architect, and he's going to lead you through the design philosophy.
Thanks, Manjula.
Great, thank you, Chris, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to take you through the design, if that's okay.
Please
As
do.
Manjula said, Chris Ledwith, Smith Group, architect for Catalyst and the project. And might be a little bit of a repeat, but yeah, I'm going to walk you through the 6-story, 106 plus or minus foot Class A office building. It's approximately 147,000 square feet of office space with an additional 18,000 plus square feet of retail space at the ground floor. And then the next 3 items are really kind of the key focus of our project, and it relates to the groundscape itself. And we put a lot of effort into the hardscape and the landscape materials and the improvements that are in and around our complex. 22 bicycle spaces on site, and then a heavy emphasis on street level shading and pedestrian enhancements. Oh, next slide. Great. All right. So with that, you'll clearly see those additional enhancements with the hardscape, the streetscape, the landscaping. We're looking at pavers along. Oh,
Oops.
quick go back a slide. Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't mind spending a little more time on the site. Is that we have.
Here on this slide for a moment, because I think you wanted to.
I would, yeah, if we
Okay,
could,
go
because a big push was on the pedestrian experience for our complex. We're actually in a key location of the Novus Innovation Corridor, and we're in a hot spot for a lot of cross travel of pedestrians. We want to really enhance that. So with that, Novus Place, heavily landscaped, heavy hardscape. We have some looking at pavers. We have a couple of social spaces. We're taking out parking along the road and creating these kind of gathering spaces along Novus Place. And then along Packard, again, we have heavy landscaping, looking at the pedestrian experience there. Beyond the two main avenues, we have what we call the Paseo, and it's that diagonal. Not a lot of sites have a diagonal going through them, so we wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront and enhance it and make it an amenity. And so this is not only going to serve as kind of a fire access road, but we want it to serve as a main pedestrian public passageway through our sites. From the south, there's going to be a new pedestrian bridge that's going to bring a great deal amount of people across the bridge. And we see them entering our site from the south. And there's a good amount of traffic that's going to cross through our site in that diagonal to go to the arena and other places along ASU. So we really want to make this a great, comfortable, welcoming place to be. And then within that Paseo, we wanted to kind of have this cool find, if you will. And so we're creating this outdoor courtyard, again, heavily landscaped because shade in the desert is very important, but also kind of this cool +1, if you will, for the project that only a triangular site could offer, if you will. And it's right in the middle of this Paseo. It's well positioned and well sized to create a great place to be. Along with that, besides the Paseo and the two main pedestrian paths, we're also trying to connect between the current developments that are going along. There's a 3CN that's going up right now, the Ryan Company's project to the east, and they have a big courtyard, open courtyard that spills out into ours. We're hoping to attach our pedestrian experience through our main entry that's off the east, through our Paseo courtyard into the parking garage. Again, strengthening that pedestrian experience through our site. Okay?
Sounds good, Chris. I wanted to ask staff, are the viewers at home able to see these projected images? That's good. And I also wanted to mention for viewers at home that this committee has viewed this project in study session a couple of months ago. So you'll be seeing it for the first time, but we've studied it before. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Okay. So going into the building and the architecture, I first wanted to focus on that Paseo because it is a kind of a unique add to this project. It is something that we were able to kind of pull to the forefront and really take advantage of it. I mean, it's obviously a tricky site, but we wanted to kind of take those as opportunities. And so this courtyard that's right off the Paseo is one of those opportunities that we want.
Are you ready for the next slide?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Great. So off to the right, you'll see the Paseo, and this is looking in the southeastern direction. And then obviously that's the courtyard in front that's well landscaped. And then it's also to the left, we have a main entrance into our facility that's directly adjacent to the parking lot itself. And so there you can see great pedestrian activity, a great place to be, well shaded, well lit, and very inviting. Great, so we'll go into the architecture a little bit. This image shows kind of the building itself in relationship to 3CN, which is that Ryan Company's project across the streets, showing it's complementing the other uses and other buildings that are in the Novus Innovation Corridor. It is also looking to strengthening what I call a four-sided architecture. It needs to be responsive. And so we have east and west elevations that need to respond to the sun and views in a different way than the north and south elevations do. And so this is showing our north elevation primarily, and it's somewhat of the free elevation. We get a lot of great natural light here. It's free expansive glass and great views out of the north. This is also showing, again, the heavily landscaped streetscape. It shows a top, middle, and bottom to our building as well. A lot of buildings in downtown don't have that top. We are trying to make sure that we have an accentuated bottom that's for the pedestrians. It does have a middle that's responsive architecture to the four sides. And then we do have a top to the building because that is still very important. What this is also showing is, I know I keep talking about four-sided architecture, and this is somewhat of a triangle-shaped building. We do still have a west elevation, and we're trying to treat it as such. We have some balconies, have some glass out there. We want to keep the views, but we want to help shade it from that western exposure. So that's what you're seeing at that kind of that tip of the building.
Okay.
What's next? This is another hot corner for us. This is looking from the south into our complex. The bridge that I talked about before, the pedestrian bridge, will be behind us. This we see a great deal of people coming from that bridge and entering our site from the corner, if you will. So we wanted this to be kind of a showcase corner, a welcoming corner, an inviting corner, but also one that's responsive again to the elements. And this is taking a very similar treatment to the balconies and the glass, that it is shaded, but it is porous, so you can see through it. We wanted to activate this corner because we have the Paseo off to the left that takes you through, and then we have Novus Place that's off to the right. Okay,
Very good.
and this is our full-fledged east elevation.
Well, this is standing in the courtyard at Novus Place, looking toward your building.
Yes, this is
West.
staying in the courtyard across the street in 3CN, if you will. Looking at the bulk of this is showing the east elevation. And you can kind of see the Paseo off to the lower left, kind of sneaking around the corner. And this gets back to our responsive architecture. We really want to help promote visibility into the building, but we want to make sure we shade that glass, keeping it open and available for visibility out in views. It's a great elevation.
Chris, there was something I noticed on a previous slide. You don't have to go back, but on the Paseo, when you're in that triangular courtyard, it looked as if you could see all the way through the building
We
to
can.
the east. Isn't that wonderful?
We can. It's a straight shot. So if you're looking from Ryan, you look all the way through our lobby, through the courtyard, to the parking garage beyond, and it actually lines up with the vertical circulation in the parking garage. So the stairs and elevator are right there at the end. And then, yeah, if you flip around, you look right through our courtyard, or I'm sorry, our entry into the courtyard beyond.
Nice.
And because above all, this is a campus building, so it needs to fit into the campus setting. So we didn't want to seclude it and just pay attention to Packard and Novus, and even our Paseo. We wanted to make sure this was kind of linked in with everything else around it. So this is a great shot because it does show that great entry and welcoming view to the south. It shows responsive architecture, and it also shows, again, that heavily landscaped and shaded pedestrian experience along Novus Place.
Will these vertical fins be similar to what's on the Ryan building, then, on the east elevation of it?
Similar, they will be.
Just to piggyback on that question, when this might be the best slide to do it, can you just tell us what all the materials are?
Sure. So we have obviously a great deal of glass. We definitely want the daylighting coming in, the views. We have concrete for the structure, so we have a little bit of that. The groundscape is going to be kind of a mix of concrete and pavers, and obviously landscaping. And then with the building, we are looking at a metal panel type product, something that's well insulated for the building. And then with the screening element, we're still reviewing a few options to that. And most likely it's going to be metal in nature, but we want to make sure it's porous so you can see out of it, but it provides some shading. Again, we still have a few options we're reviewing for that particular element itself.
So that's that kind of white dominant feature where the fins are. Is that some kind of metal panel, or what is that?
It would be.
So this is a storefront, not curtain wall, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we want to try to use as much storefront as possible. We might have to put some curtain wall on the first floor, given the tall spans, but everything above that, we're hoping that it can be storefront.
And that roof material, that canopy is?
It'd be a metal awning.
Nice. Thank you.
Great.
Anything else for Chris? Thank you, Chris.
No,
Oh, we have
is somebody
questions.
else chatting? Is somebody else coming up? Or? No, I was going to ask a question about the parking. 166,000. About the parking, 166,000, 144,000 net, 282 spaces, so 2 per thousand. Am I getting that right? Less than 2 per thousand?
Oh, so, okay. Madam Chair, Commissioner Rob, that is the current code requirement in terms of, excuse me, from the city code, so in the city center parking requirement is what you're reading. So as you may remember, all of these buildings park kind of together in the kind of parking garage that's located adjacent to it.
So how does right, so everybody's parking in the garage that's currently under construction. The Ryan Building's parking there, this building's parking there, the hotel's parking there.
That's correct.
Are those the only three that are parking in there?
Currently, yes.
And presumably the retail users are parking there?
There will be some retail parking, yes.
So what is in 3 or 4 minutes, what is the parking management plan? I mean, how many spaces are there? Is there a study? Is there something
Yeah,
that,
so this is an ASU garage, so it hasn't gone through here. It's going to be a 7-story garage. And so we have gone through with ASU. There's a shared parking study. Everything is adequately parked, certainly to city code. And we've been working through ASU to make sure that everybody's parked adequately. And then the office buildings, obviously the office buildings and the hotel have these shared uses. And like many ASU garages, they'll have other shared uses with other, uses around. So some of the plan was, we have office uses. They can also share, as you know, with some of the, with the Desert Financial Arena and some other uses. So the plan is there are certainly more spaces, than we need right now, but eventually build out, there will be adequate parking for everybody.
and is it just kind of a hunting license for people to just find parking spaces, or are there reserved spaces?
We will have spaces reserved, because Brian wants to answer this question. Hold on, hold on one sec. Because just, we do have contracts with ASU, so people have, like the hotel has a certain number of spaces in the garage, the office has a certain number of spaces. Do you want to, Brian?
Just real quickly, Brian Kearney with Catellus, Madam Chair, members of the committee. As Monza was just alluding to, actually, that's what I was going to say, is there are individual contracts with each developer of each building has an individual parking agreement with ASU to contract for a certain number of spaces. Each of the two so far have contracted at what we would call market ratios,
Right.
and there is adequate room for the third office building to also do the same. There will be some reserved in there, but that's completely contained within the individual contracts between ASU and the individual developer. Although most of the spaces, the trend toward office development these days is going away from reserved spaces and more to unreserved, and the vast majority will be unreserved.
And will there be a guest parking component? Will you pull a ticket and?
There will be short-term parking as well. The retail, as you alluded to, will be parked as well, and that will be short-term parking. You'll pull a ticket and maybe a validation system. We're still working through those details.
Cool. So there's really just some kind of because the 282 says 282, 269 minimum per proposed ratios. I'm not really sure what that means, but if you remember back when we approved Ryan, it was like a big parking ratio. It was like 6 or 7 per thousand. It sounds like maybe there's been some blending now to where this didn't get parked 7 per thousand on top of Ryan 7 per thousand on top of however how many total spaces are there in the parking garage?
In total, so actually the final decision was made within the last couple of months with respect to the ultimate build out of that garage. There'll be, originally, you might remember, it was going to be 1,250 spaces in the first phase, and there was a second phase to be added vertically if needed at some point in the future. The decision was made by ASU, Bill's very familiar with this, to actually, instead of a second phase, finish constructing the garage now, but at 7 levels, and that will be approximately 1,750 spaces in total. Ryan, I'm not sure what you're referring to in terms of 6 or 7 per thousand. Ryan is not parking at 6 or 7 per thousand, but they are at market rates, and I think what's presented here is simply what's required, and we're committing to provide those spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was all kind of unclear when Ryan processed because there was really not a full understanding of the future users. And just one more really short question. So in the parking master plan, the users of this garage, except for special events, are the two office buildings, the hotel. What about the office building that's going to be built south of the Ryan building? Is that going to use this garage too?
Right, all three office buildings, the hotel and the ground level retail in the office buildings will all utilize the garage. Now, again, it's sized to accommodate market ratios. The overall master plan for parking also has the ability to utilize other ASU parking facilities in the general vicinity as well, so,
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you, and it should be noted that it's, that this location is right on a light rail stop, correct?
That is correct, in terms of people. We're certainly also, as part of, we've been talking to the city as part of the larger kind of traffic management plan that ASU has in place, a trip reduction plan, I should say, in addition to the parking plan. There's certainly a lot of other multimodal options that the city and ASU are working with, and certainly ASU has implemented across the campus. So not only light rail, but there's other, certainly bikes, bicycles, using the bus, shared, there's telecommuting, there's a lot of trip reduction packages that ASU is
Yeah, I
also.
saw in the package that they're required to
Yes,
provide.
yeah, so a trip reduction plan that we've been working with ASU.
Okay.
And it looks like the trash and the service is all at the west end of the building, right?
Yeah, Chris? Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think you can just say yes. Oh, yes. Because I think it's near adjacent to the parking garage. Yeah.
So a trash truck would go down the Paseo presumably very early in the morning. Like there'll be some kind of bollards or something?
We do. We have removable bollards.
Just talking to Mike.
Oh, we have removable bollards at the east and west ends.
Right. Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the committee? Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I just want to say that we reviewed all the conditions, and we agree with all the conditions of approval, and we certainly appreciate all of Suparna and Karen's work on this project.
Okay. And thank you, staff, for your hard work and providing the conditions and getting all of this prepared for our review. We are at the point in our agenda where we need to talk about how we would like to act on this.
Chairman,
Yes.
would you like staff to present anything or
Absolutely.
clarify anything?
Please, yeah,
for
I
us?
think that would be a good
Okay.
thing for
We can
especially our
also-
viewers at home to hear staff's view of this proposal and the conditions.
Okay, Chairman, definitely, and we can also, Karen can actually also clarify quickly some of Vice Chair's questions about the parking with the other projects, the other two commercial projects that were developed. We can clarify that too, very
Great.
quickly
Thank you.
on that too. So let me pull up that PowerPoint.
All right. Good evening. My name is Karen Stovall, Senior Planner. I will be brief since the applicant did a fine job in their presentation. So this is a DPR request for 700 South Novus Place. We are recommending approval subject to the conditions listed in the report. To address the parking questions that have come up, the MUED zoning district does not have to follow the zoning ordinance parking ratios. So whatever ratios are proposed by the applicant is what's proposed. So that is why the staff report has per proposed ratios. So their proposed ratios are 1 space per 500 square feet, and that's how we got to the 269 minimum. You did see in the conditions of approval the stipulation about providing those 269 spaces prior to C of O for the building. The other sites so this building is on the same lot as the parking structure. The other buildings, previously approved office building on the east side of Novus and the hotel, those are not on this parcel. So those had stipulations about providing the minimum number of required spaces per their proposed ratios, along with a parking affidavit, because the parking spaces would not be provided on the same lot as the buildings. So.
Okay, well, now I am a little confused because clearly the tenants are going to require more than 266 spaces. They just will. So is the 266 just kind of a somewhat meaningless number because it really is a number inside of a 1,750 space parking garage? I mean, my point is you're not going to be able to rent office space at 2 per thousand, right?
Right. So Chairman, just to clarify, when ASU, in conjunction with Catalyst, adopted the design guidelines, that is their internal design guidelines. As part of that design guidelines for Novus, they adopted the city's downtown parking ratios, which is a lot reduced number than what's typically in the code, even the ZDC. So that's the minimum they have to provide. They can provide above that in MUED, and and that's why they're parking. If you see the actual plans, like 777 Tower, when that came in, it is a higher ratio that they're proposing. That's the minimum they have to reserve regardless. Beyond, they can provide beyond that for their tenant needs, and that's their separate agreements they have with the different commercial users for that. So this is per city's requirement, they have to provide the minimum. The rest, they will be doing through their own agreements with ASU.
Very well, thanks.
That explained for you. This is one of the benefits of the Joint Review Committee, is that the city gets to work with ASU on requiring or requesting things that they are not required to do. And so we appreciate that.
Madam Chairman, can I just make one clarification?
Of course.
Which I just want to make sure we're together. I see on Karen's slide that it's 144,000 square feet of office. I think it's actually supposed to be 147,870 square feet of office and then 18,200 square feet of retail.
Okay.
So,
So this is net.
oh, that's,
not
okay,
gross.
sorry. Oh, sorry, okay. I just
We
wanna make
go
sure-
by net building
Oh,
areas
okay.
for parking calculations, et
Just so we're
cetera.
making sure we're all going to approve the right building.
Got it.
Just, okay, thank you.
Anything else from staff? And staff is recommending approval of the development plan review, correct? All right, the chair would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify that there's no stipulations that we are approving this as presented.
No, there are stipulations.
There are
They
some
begin on
conditions.
page 4 of the staff report.
And at the end, there's a letter from ARC, signed by Ed Soltero. These have all been incorporated in some way, or have they already been incorporated, or are they outstanding issues?
They've been incorporated into the project.
Thank you.
So Ken, did you see the general conditions on page 4?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
I will move to approve, how are we describing this? 700 South Novus, PL 190-319, as presented.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made by committee member Ross Robb and seconded by committee member Ken Lufkin. Is there any discussion from the committee? Additional questions, comments? Then I will call for the vote. All committee members in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now, moving on to the rest of our agenda this evening. Are there any announcements from committee members? Any staff announcements?
Madam Chair and committee members, we will send out a notification for future agenda items when we have one. We don't know yet if we have one for the next meeting in April, but if we have one, we'll notify, and even if it's a cancellation, we will still notify.
Okay. So committee members, please keep your first Wednesday of the month penciled in
Absolutely.
for Joint Review Committee. We have some others in the pipeline, I dare say. Yes, we do. All
And we
right.
most likely will have some study sessions with the new projects when they come online.
Okay,
And then the dates, also, for the next 3 months, I think it is the first Wednesday. I think July is the only one when it's the second Wednesday. And it's the agenda meeting dates are online, and I'm happy to send a link to that. For the whole year, it has been developed. So I'll send out the link
That'd
to
be
the
great.
calendar.
thank you.
I think there is only one that's slightly off because a lot of people go on vacation during that week in July. So other than that, Madam Chair, I don't have any other update from staff.
Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, this meeting of the Joint Review Committee is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time this evening. And thank you to Manjula and all the Catellus staff, architect. Beautiful buildings.
Yeah, it really is.